of the same origin, and it just has the ability to, based on your own perceptions, on your own consciousness, appear as it wants to appear. I don't know.
Yeah. No. Well, that's interesting.
But that's less exciting.
No, well, still, no, I think that's exciting, interesting, and cool. I mean, before I get into this woman's story, the guy who kind of runs these studies now, his name is Ray Hernandez. I've mentioned him before on the podcast. He runs Edgar Mitchell's foundation, or as a part of it. And his story of how he got into it is crazy. He woke up in the middle of the night, and there was his wife woke him up, and there was an energy being floating around their living room. And they had a terminally ill dog. And they basically prayed the night before or something like that for the dog to be healed. And then the dog was miraculously healed. And then Ray, it was an energy being. It didn't form as anything. Remember, as I said in those studies, a lot of people are just seeing energy beings. They're not seeing anything in particular. So an energy beam can probably manipulate how it looks to you in any way it wants. And then over the next couple of days, he kept seeing UFOs, giant UFOs over his house. The high strain just went on and on and on. And even like what we talked about, where like people will see a UFO and they'll be like, oh, that's incredible. And they'll just turn around, get in their car and drive away. I think that is so fascinating, whatever the fuck's happening. But okay, the story I want to bring up is this woman from the 50s. And I came across this the other day on YouTube, and it was just one of those things that like is so authentic and so interesting. And I can't wait to get other people's thoughts on it. And I can't wait for you guys to watch it. So I'll break it down, then we'll play the clip, and then we'll discuss it. So it was a woman named Jessie Rostenberg. It was in October 1954 in the UK. She was at her house, and her sons and her kids witnessed a UFO that suddenly was above their house, and she breaks it down. I'll comment on it afterwards, but here's a short clip of her description of what she saw and what she witnessed.
It was stationary, this thing, and it was bright silver in colour, and it had a dome. It was tilted. I could see the occupants in it.
You saw people in it?
I saw people in it. There were 2 people in there. These people were beautiful people. That's the only way I can describe them. They had long golden hair, like a page boy bob, just like the old kings. You used to see photographs of the old kings. And the colour of their hair was golden. I could see them, and they could see me.
Were you looking at them through windows, through portholes, or what?
No, not portholes. It was just sort of like a cockpit, I suppose. And they had beautiful faces. I shall never forget their faces as long as I live. Their foreheads seemed to be a bit larger than, the bottom of their faces as normal people you would expect to see.
Okay, so that was incredible. Her description of what they looked like and how they interacted with her blew my mind. I thought it was really interesting. 2 things she said. One, they had a transparent fish bowl around their heads. So they're in their craft, but they're wearing a spacesuit. I don't know what that's about. That's just weird. And also that they looked sympathetic. Like they felt bad almost that she was so scared and the kids were all scared. That was really interesting to me. And I did some quick research. I want to get you guys' thought on that, but I just did some quick researches on the Pleiadians, and actually an episode of a show that we're all working on together about alien species talks about, we pulled a clip from Mateus, our boy Mateus, who talks about how the Pleiadians and the Arcturians, a different race, are here to help us evolve and to help build humanity, and they're connected to us in a way, so they're very positive, and they're not in any way trying to hurt us or do anything negative. So the sympathetic look that they gave her in some way confirmed that for me. Maybe it was an accident, they flew down, but if they're trying to help us, of course they'd be like, oh shit, we just scared this woman, I feel terrible, I thought that was really interesting. It was more of a heartwarming story, but again, not a negative experience, not necessarily positive though, but very neutral. It was a neutral experience. But what do you guys think of what she said?
It sounds really good and everything, and like an interesting experience, but the whole idea of oh, they were so beautiful and they cared for me, it just screams of manipulation of some kind to me. And maybe it's just because I'm not a very trusting person when it comes to alien beings.
But she was scared, though. She just remembered them being sympathetic. Okay. So they didn't make her feel better. They were just like, oh, shit, we scared her. We got to get out of here. It's like us scaring a kid or a baby. You're like, oh, fuck, I didn't mean to do that.
It was just interesting that she got all that information from a look,
Yeah.
Yeah. True.
And I wonder what they were trying to get from her. What were they trying to... They would just come down and say hi? Tell her
it sounds like it might have been an accident, though, right?
That's what it feels like to me. There's no context. Yeah, because I can't find anything on her. It wasn't like she had experiences afterwards or was a build-up to it or kids or famous abductees. There was nothing to it. Yeah, it just seemed like they were on lunch break, popped into above someone's house quick. We're like, oh, fuck, we shouldn't be doing this. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
Right, which is so human. You know, especially if they're connected to us. I mean, wouldn't other species? They're not perfect either. Like, we kind of assume that these aliens are like super advanced and they would never mess up or do anything wrong. But if they're just humanish
Like
and they
they're
have genetics
gods
just
or
like
something.
right, they fuck up too. They're
right.
fallible.
Like if we go back to the idea that if really there is 36 species within our Milky Way, and that's connected to our 36 blood types, and that we all share the DNA. Like they would be able, maybe they would be a little bit more advanced on some other things, but they would be able to communicate with us. They'd be able to understand things. So
Yeah.
they'd be able to be like, "I'm sorry, I fucked up. I'm in your yard. I didn't mean to. Don't shoot."
I mean, especially if they've been like observing us or potentially interacting, manipulating us, whatever species it might be. Yeah, they'd know a little bit about our culture by now.
Right, of course. Well, I thought that was really interesting. It was just a good example, and I guess my point of this podcast is to get across that we're interacting with multiple species, and the Greys are just overblown by the media, and everyone's scared of aliens because of the media and Whitley Strieber's Communion back in the day, and that kind of started it all. And really the case, and the overwhelming evidence suggests that that's not what's happening. It's not even necessarily good, it's just neutral. Okay, so the other case I wanted to bring up that most people only have the reference point of the movie, but if you actually get into the details of it, it blows your mind, is the Travis Walton abduction experience. Another good example of how interactions with experiencers and contactees aren't as simple as you think. It's not just the Greys. So what I wanted to do was quickly play you a section of his first interview that I came across. I found an archival interview of him, his first one after the event way back in the day. I think it was the 70s. Not like one on YouTube now. I mean, he kind of says the same similar things, but it was just so interesting to hear him say it. He sounds like a man who's in shock, but also like telling the fucking truth. So here's a quick clip and a breakdown of what he encountered on the ship, which wasn't just aliens. He also encountered humans on the same ship, which the movie never goes into. So let me play this clip, then we'll break it down.
I couldn't focus my eyes very well, but I looked beyond the top edge of the thing that was laying across me, and I saw two men leaning over me. They weren't really men. They were a lot like men, but they weren't quite human.
What did they physically look like?
They had kind of underdeveloped features and no hair of any kind, and they were dressed in kind of a brownish orange. They were slightly shorter than myself.
What type of clothing was they dressed?
It was sort of a loose cover-off. I didn't see any buttons or anything like that. But being in so much pain and everything, I didn't even think. I just lashed out and knocked them back. I could see that there was two on the right side and one on the left. They didn't try to approach or anything. They just left. They just ran out real fast. And I heard somebody come in, and I turned around, and it was a man, just like people. I mean, he wasn't like the other creatures or whatever at all. He looked just like you and I, except he had a helmet on, a sort of a clear helmet.
And he got hair and everything?
Yes.
I mean, I can't help but think to myself that the human that he's talking about, or the humans he sees, like maybe those aren't even human. Maybe there are aliens changing their form. So they're like, it's okay. We're human like you.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's that whole
Freaky.
manipulation thing. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, because the other ones ran out of the room. Maybe they were like, all right, guys, get on your other outfit quick. This guy's freaking out.
Yeah. Put your
Human
mask on, guys.
time.
I didn't think that, actually. I thought the humans were more secret space program. Like, they're working in conjunction with these aliens. And then the aliens clearly were like, fuck, get out of here. This human's, twice our size or bigger than us. And then they were like, get the humans in here to help them.
It's interesting to me. It seems like there's people like Travis who don't seem to be as affected by whatever the mind clouding thing they do for, I think, for most people. Where he was completely lucid, it seems like, through this whole experience, where other people sort of have this dream-like, Most people
he does
kind
explain
of
how he was out of
snippets.
it. Right. He was able to cut through that bullshit more than most people. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, so whatever it is about his physiology, about his brain makeup, he was able to not be as affected by their kind of smokescreen. But he had some wacky details. Like,
well, look, can we break down the aliens quick? Because I actually can't put a finger on which ones they are. They sound like Syrians to me, like bald. How do you describe them? You said they almost look human. They were very white, which in the movie they're whitish. They're more like brownish on their skin and hairless in a reddish brown coveralls. So, like, what is that? Like, that's not gray. So, what the fuck are we looking at here? Is it a Syrian? Like,
I thought Syrians were blue.
Oh, right.
From most of the accounts, Syrians are blue.
I should know that.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
You were a Syrian, remember? We got our whole past life reading in space.
I was just thinking bald and conehead. That's what I was thinking. I don't know.
I don't know. I bet you they're like, I don't know. You had an idea, right, Matt? What they were, maybe?
I mean, it seems like this whole hybrid thing we were talking about before.
Ooh, okay.
The many different variations of the greys, and it seems like there's a spectrum between very human-looking to, really sort of robotic, insect-like looking things. And it seems like it's somewhere maybe on the former part of that spectrum, the more human-looking thing. But I always read somewhere, maybe I just made this up, but that the Fire in the Sky movie, which was the movie based on this Travis Walton experience, that the aliens that were depicted in that physically were kind of pretty close to, I mean, they were much more like terrifying and like angry looking things. But as far as like
Grumpy
physical
aliens.
attributes go, it was pretty close. I remember reading that, but maybe, I said, maybe.
Well, no, I mean, in that clip, he clearly says they're very white, and in the movie, they're not. I mean, whatever, one little difference.
Yeah,
who
they're
cares?
very flesh-colored, but they have, they're bald, they have human-ish looking features, no nose or whatever, but there's that kind of like grey alien kind of look to them in a very humanish way. It's hard to explain.
Yeah.
Just go watch.
Well, you know what? Yeah, we know what, someone out there probably listening knows. They probably have a good idea. Like, come on, guys, that's clearly an Arcturian. You know, like.
Right.
So if you know, hit us up, guys. Let us know what you think what Travis Walton really witnessed. But I just thought overall, I think my point with this podcast was I always love to preach to people that the alien species thing is way more complex than we're all led to believe, and way more interesting, and that the media, you shouldn't just listen to the gray alien media narrative, and most of it is not scary. So if you find yourself in a spaceship and you wake up and things are weird, most likely you're going to be okay. Just try to enjoy the ride.
just lean into
okay.
it.
I don't think I'm going to give the same. I'm not going to give the same advice.
Terrible advice.
That was terrible. That was terrible. I'm definitely not going to give the same advice. Yeah.
Just close your eyes and think of good things.
Okay. I'm definitely going to think of good things because we're wrapping up.
Okay.
This podcast is really interesting. Again, back to the media point. We started this podcast talking about articles, and again, the media is like, it's like spewing like pieces of truth out there, but then saying it's not true and spending a lot of time and pages and words explaining why it's not true, but in the process explaining how it is true. So
it's like one step forward, two steps back kind of thing each time.
Yeah. It's like, okay, let's post this, but like pretend that we don't believe in it. So watch that because it's happening. Just this happened just this week that they posted that article. So somebody's trying to say something, and maybe, I don't know. I don't want to say that this is part of any kind of disclosure movement. I think it's just part of us getting used to the fact that maybe we share DNA with some other species out there, and they're in contact with us. Anyway, have a good night, and we will see you next week.
Goodbye.
Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
Oh my God!